All right. Hey, everybody. My name's Layla. This is Keeping It Drier with Templates. If this is the wrong talk for you, like you're not meant to be in this one, you can go now. If it is, welcome. Thank you for choosing my talk. It's going to be about Visual Studio templates, .NET new templates, so solution-sized templates. So again, if that's not what you thought it was, you can escape now. If not, you're stuck here. All right, so about me. As I said, I'm Layla Porter. I organize a .NET users group, mk.net. I also run a Get Coding user group to teach C# to newbies, spreading that C# love because I love C#. I'm also a developer evangelist at Twilio. Who here has heard of Twilio? Yay, that's a good amount of hands. Those of you who haven't, we're a cloud communications API. We allow you to use voice, video, SMS, chat, security, all in your applications using the languages you're already using via our libraries, or we have a RESTful API. But I'm not going to bore you with any more Twilio. I am going to talk to you about the problem we need to solve. No, I'm not there, the problem. So I used to have a workflow where I write technical content, I still write technical content, for the Twilio blog. Or I will do a lot of demo projects, or when I was actually working in software engineering, I would want to do proof of concepts. So what I would find is that I'd have a certain architecture that I like to use, or I would have NuGet packages that I'd always install, or I'd set up my dependency injection the way I always liked it. So I'd open up an existing project, and I'd start copying stuff over. And actually, I have a video to show you, a little bit tongue-in-cheek, about my workflow. So you kind of get the idea of how I felt about continually setting up these projects. It's tedious, it's prone to errors, you're basically stuck in a copy and paste cycle. Now, I don't know if you've experienced that, but maybe you have, or maybe you want to try something new and you're like, oh, I have to start all of this again. So that's where templates come in. Now, I first came across templates in my very first software engineering job. I worked on a white label website for a client, and every time they got a new client, I would spool up this new template, and it was awesome. It was a NuGet package, I think. Yes, it was. And then it would come up, it would have the new namespaces. It was magic. I used to be able to go through and update the architecture. It didn't have repos. It had everything straight in the controller. You would be calling the data, like link queries, different queries everywhere. So I could go through and iterate and make it more how I wanted my solution to be. And that was the really good thing about templates. So I thought, why have I been doing all this copy and pasting for so long with my technical content when I could have done a template? Now, you're saying, well, I write technical content, I'm spooling up new content, new projects all the time. But maybe you're working in an agency and you're making new projects all the time. So you might be doing the same sort of 80% of your project, and you need to reuse that all the time, and then you're customizing the final 20% for each client. I mean, if you're working in an enterprise solution, maybe you want to do some proof of concepts, and then you can have that overall architecture that your big solution has, and you can quickly repeat it and bring it up in a smaller proof of concept project. So when you come to a template, you want to think about your perfect project. And I mean that as you as an individual or your team. And that might be your architecture, your file structure, all these things here. You may have base domain models that you could see in my video there. I always want to have the Twilio account details there injected via user secrets. So that would be something that I was forever going through and just copying and pasting because I was a bit lazy. So these are the things that, once you've got these, this is the perfect time to make a template. So as of .NET Core 2, you can start to write your own custom templates. So let's have a little look. Who here is using .NET Core? Good. So you're familiar with .NET New and the CLI? Yeah? And then that will give you all of these templates. And you may notice this one, that's actually my template. So you too can get your templates into this code now if you're on .NET Core 2. Okay, so I'm going to show you around some code now. So let's come through here. And we are mirrored, good. So let's come into Visual Studio. Okay, actually I'm going to show you this project just being newed up first. So if we have a look in .NET New, I need to write the whole sentence, .NET New. Is this because I'm not on the Wi-Fi? No, there we go, it's just being slow. I shouldn't need it, it's all installed. So here you can see I have my template here. Is that large enough for everybody at the back, yeah? Cool. Just tell me if you can't see it and I can always magnify in. So there's my template. So if you're familiar with this, you'll know this, but if you're not familiar, I can go Twilio. This is the short name here, and it's Twilio MVC. So if I go Twilio MVC and install that, there we go. I need to make a directory in here. So we're going to have a new project. Go in here. I'll cd into that. And then I'll do that .NET new project in there. And it still doesn't want to do it. OK, that I know why. Because if I close that one, I'm hoping it will go. It's because you're all watching. This worked perfectly before. There we go. It's going to overwrite all of this. OK, I'm going to skip on to that. That would have just created a new instance of my template. And you would have seen that that had the namespaces in it. But you're more interested in the actual template itself. So if I come in here, it did create that project right in there. Let me come in here, and let's open this one. OK. So this was originally my perfect project that I want to keep reusing. So how do I make that a new .NET new template? So here in the CS proj, you can see I've got my NuGet packages in there. But then there's this important keyword up here, is packable true. Now, out of the box, only class libraries are usually packable. And by packable, I mean pack into a NuGet package. So you need to add on anything that is not a class library. You need to put this is packable true into it. So that's the first step. Now, if I go into up here, can you see that? It says .template.config. I can use the magnifier. It's a little bit hit and miss, this magnifier, but we'll go with it. Over here. So you can see I've got this .template.config folder, and inside I've got template.json. So if I come back out of the magnifier, in here you can see I actually have my template. And this is all the information that your template is going to need. So we have the schema, and then obviously the author is myself. The classifications are going to be sort of search parameters. So we've got Twilio, it's an MVC project. I have the identity, which is the name, and then the long name, which is what you'll see in the templates listed on the left and on the NuGet library. And then the short name is what I pop in when I want to create a new template. Then I have some other tags, so it's in C#, and that's all you need. And then if we come out, I haven't changed any of the namespacing in this. So this is Twilio MVC template, because a really important thing on this template.json, can you see this prefer name directory attribute just here? This is what's going to go through and update your namespace to the new project's name. So if I come out of here and I'm going to go back into my slides. Okay. So I'm just going to cover again what we did. We've got the .template.config folder, and that's in the root of your project. And then we have the template.json inside that folder. And there we go, that's just that JSON. So if you want to get these slides later, I will share them. You have it all there for you. And there's the is packable coming into that. So that is really key, and that's something that you could easily miss. So make sure you get that into it. Now, if we want to go, that's very high up there, but hopefully you can see it. I will give you the commands as well. So to pack your template, we need to go through this process here. And it's really quick, and it's on the command line, obviously. So this will go and build it and package it into the right format. And if we actually go into the bin release, you can see we've now got this NUPKG file type. So that is your NuGet package ready. So that was .NET pack -c for configuration. We want it to be release. And then the package name is going to be, well, the version is going to be 1.0.0 or whatever version you're on. You can use /p as well, that will work. And then we need to go into that release folder. So if we just continue on with that, we need to then push it up to NuGet. So we've got that NuGet, .NET NuGet push, and then you take the name of your package. We have an API key from NuGet, and then we can start to push that up. And we get a message back saying your package is pushed. To install it, if you've ever installed a template on there, it's .NET-I, and then the template name, and you can see that one is in there now. So what I did there, .NET NuGet push, the name of your package, your key, and up to NuGet.org, and then the installation .NET New-I Twilio API, Web API template. That was the name I gave it on that schema. And then we have to install it, the short name, so the .NET New Twilio API. Cool. So when that's published, if you've been to the NuGet website, you'll see this. So you get exactly the same thing here for your template. It comes up, and you can have a look and see how many downloads you've got. You can put more information on here for publicly sharing it. And then you can also manage your own packages. So you've got nice control over it. You can unlist them if you don't want people to be able to find them and install them. And then, as I mentioned, you need to get your API keys. That's in /account/API keys. And they're just there. You can regenerate your API keys. You can also give different levels of permissions on them. So for instance, this one here, the top one will allow you to push new packages. It will also allow you to unlist it via the CLI, whereas this one, you can't unlist it. So you can give different levels of accessibility to those keys. So if you were sharing them in a dev team, for example, you can give those different levels or individual keys to different people. OK, can you update the template? You certainly can, and .NET Core and this type of template is very easy to update. You can just go through, do your updates. It will build like normal, and you can see your changes, and then you can just republish your package with a new version number, updating that template.json with the version name as well. And then you just push it, and it will show up. So it's really, really easy to update that. So you might be saying, well, I don't use .NET Core. What if I'm on .NET Framework? Well, it's OK. You can use a V6 template instead. So this is the Visual Studio template. So when you go into Visual Studio and you want to start a new project and you get that nice little pop-up, that's a template that we're going to stick there. So you can have your own custom templates there as well. So let's have a look and see how we can do that. OK. Not that one. This one. OK. So this is effectively the exact same template I had for the previous template, the .NET Core version, but I've had to do some tweaks for it to be a V6 file. So as you can see, that's exactly the same sort of thing. I've got all my Twilio configuration, but this is where it differs. So we have these parameters up here. So the $project name $, that is where I'm going to parse through the project and replace it with my template instance name, so whatever your project is going to be. So you do need to go through your project and start changing your namespaces for these variables. So that means it's a little bit difficult to update, but I'll get to that in a little bit. So if we go through this project, I have done this everywhere. So that is all you have to do to the project. Now, if I zoom in, what we want to do is to actually build this into a template, we're going to come up here to Project. And if we come down, we've got this Export Template option. So if we do that, I'll just come back out. Oh, that's a bit small, isn't it? Let's come in here. So you get this pop-up, and it asks you to choose the template type. Move that. No, it doesn't want to move. OK, so you could, in fact, for any of these templates, make small batches of code. So if you have your boilerplate code that you want to pull in, you can make small little packages to pull in for templating code. It doesn't have to be the whole solution, but obviously here I'm covering the whole solution. So we're going to choose project type, and that's the name of this project. If you had multiple projects within your solution, you could make templates for the one you wanted. So this one, I've only got this Twilio MVC template, so we're going to make a project of that. So you get this pop-up here, and you can start to put some details into it. Your template description, so that is actually going to show on the Microsoft extension page. And we have the icon image, so that image that shows up in your new project. So I actually have this on the desktop. So we're going to have the Twilio signet. We'll pop that in. And I'm going to use the same for the preview, so we'll just grab that. And then we can just finish and build. So if I come back out of this, I already have one in here from earlier, so I've just overwritten that. And it will open up in here. So that actually says it's in Documents, Visual Studio 2017, My Exported Templates, and we have a zip file now. So what are we going to do with that zip? We need to create the actual V6 project, and that's what I'm going to do now. This is an empty solution. There's nothing in here. So what we need to do is actually add our V6 into this. So if we come in, we're going to add a new project, just like you would any others. And if I get that magnifier up again, no, I've lost the magnifier. I'm going into extensibility. So we're under Visual Studio C#, and this one here says extensibility in case you can't see that at the back. And it gives you these couple of options here, C# item template C# project template, and the v6 project. Now, if you choose the C# project template, you can see that that is all framework. So we can create that. This isn't for the template, but I'll just show you what it is if you're in framework. So this actually creates a new template project, like the one I just showed you, and this already has those variables in the namespaces here. So you can see the namespace project, safe project name, it's already got that in there. But this is only for framework. So if you're in core, you need to create it yourself and go through and change all your variables in there. So I'm just going to remove this project and show you the v6. So if we come in, add new project, and we're going to choose this v6 here. All right, so in here, we have this very annoying magnifier that won't move anywhere I want it. There we go. We have a couple of index.html, a CSS sheet, and then we have this source.extension.v6 manifest, and this is what we're interested in. So if I'm just going to use this to open up the folder containing this solution, because what I want to do just before we go into that is add a couple of things. So you remember the zip file we just created? I'm actually going to drag that in here, and we've got that now in our solution. And also over here, I have a license.txt. So this is my license. It's an MIT license. You can have whatever license you want. If it's your company one, you will need a license for this. So I'm just going to drag that in as well. So if we go back to the project, was it that one? It wasn't that one. It was this one. All right, so if I show all the hidden files, you can see now I've got that license.txt and the zip folder template in my project now, okay? So the next step is to edit this manifest folder, so file. So here you have your product name. So this can be whatever you want to call your template. Then your product ID, I suggest you use something that is meaningful to you, not the GUID that comes out the box. Then you're going to put your description. But now we're going to go down here. I'll just zoom out again. And we've got a field. I'm really getting annoyed at that magnifier. I'm sorry about that. We've got a license field. So if I go into license and browse, that license I just added, I can add in here. I don't need to add a preview image in here because I've already got it in the template. So you can just carry that over. So you don't need to fill out everything in here. But the most important bit of this is this assets tab here. And then, okay. So we need to let the v6 know that the template we want to use is that zip file we created. So if I come over this side and go new, we're going to add a new asset. And you've got lots of options in here. So we've got analyzer, assembly, item template, MEF component, project template, toolbox control, and VS package. We're doing a project template, so we're going to choose that. And then that source is going to be a file on the file system. So if we go into Browse, we can see now that inside our solution, we've got that MVC template zip. Now, you don't have to have that in your solution. I just find it's easier to bring it in and keep it there. You could just navigate to the Visual Studio 2017 folder where it was created and bring it in there. But I find it much easier to just go grab it and have it all centered. So once that's done, we press OK. And that's your manifest saved. So what that will have done, if we come over and look at the solution, we now have this new folder, project templates, and we can see that that zip file is in there now, okay? So we're ready to actually build. So I don't want to release a debug version, so I'm going to change that over to release. And then you can just build it like any other project. So I'll just build the solution. Perfect. So if we come over here and look in our bin, and in release, I'm going to open this in the File Explorer, we have this. Okay, so you can see we've now got project templates, we've got this extension.v6 manifest, we've got our license, and we've got this Microsoft Visual Studio extension. So this is our actual template. Now you don't have to publish this. And I should have said that on the .NET Core one, on .NET New, you don't have to publish that to NuGet if you don't want to. None of these templates you have to publish. You can use them locally. So you can see here, I've double-clicked on that extension file, and now I can install this project. I'm not going to because it's called V6 Project 1. I don't really want a template called that. But you could just install your template locally and keep reusing it again and again. So that's how you can quickly get a template done in Visual Studio. So if we go back to the code now, the slides. Okay. So just to recap, we have the project name variable, but you're not only limited to that one variable. You can put variables throughout your entire solution. You just need to be able to swap them in and tell it what you want it to be. And if you wanted to edit those, when you've built it the first time, you can go into your obj folder and find your .vs template and start adding things like this. So this will go and change file 1.exe to your project name and things like that. So there's a lot of control that you get from the V6 template. So as I mentioned, that C# project, you can grab that out and use that for framework, but there's not one for core as yet. And then in here, I'm just going to show you how you would publish that to extensions. So we saw that this is in our our bin/release. And then you'll need an account on the marketplace of .Visual Studio, but you can just use your regular Microsoft login. To add a new extension, you can go into the extensions here, and it's going to ask you for the folder, the file. So we'll go into that bin/release where we created our V6 extension there, and we can click on that, and then this will do everything else. It will bring the template in. You can give it internal names. This can't be changed. And you can see that it has brought my logo across as well from my preview image. So that one will come in. All of this is brought over from your template, so you can't do anything with that. You can add in some description. That should be something meaningful because that's going to show on the marketplace page. And then you can also specify the supported versions of Visual Studio. So you can see here, this one is Visual Studio 2017, 2017 Community. You can specify what framework it's going to go on, and then you can put in any tags you like to help people find it. You can charge for extensions and templates. There are some criteria that need to be met, and then you can just save and upload. So once that goes up, it'll be here, and it will start verifying. So you won't be able to see it immediately. It starts to verify, and you'll also notice this not public. To be able to have your V6 template publicly listed, you need to ensure that you're going to maintain it and do a whole load of other things. So there's certain criteria. But if you're using this just for yourself, you don't need to have it publicly listed, or for your team or your company. You probably don't want it publicly listed. But if you wanted to sell your awesome architecture, you could list it and charge for it. So that's a little bit different from the .NET New and the CLI with .NET Core. So there's some differences there. So just like any other NuGet package, you'll see your template listed or not listed. It'll only show listed for you if it's private. You can download it from here. And in your downloads there, you'll get that same extension that we built before. And you can double-click on that. It will bring everything it needs in, and then that will be installed. Then, when you go to that the Visual Studio and you go Add New Project, and if you search for Twilio, you can now see I've got my Twilio MVC template as an option to install as a template on a new project. And that's it. You've got it there ready to go. Can I update this? This is a bit of an issue for me with the V6 template. It was super easy to update the .NET Core template because it's still built. Now you remember we've got those variables, the $project name $ in the actual project. That prevents it from building. So it's a little bit of a long-winded method to update your project. You need to have an instance of it, go through, add all your new features, and then either copy it back into your template or create a new template out of your updated model, going through and changing all of your template names. I have not found a nicer way of doing that. When I was doing it years ago, that's how I was doing it. I'm open to, if anybody does find a better way of updating V6 templates, I'm all ears. But this is the only way I have found of doing it, that you have to create an instance of it and do your updates. So it's a little bit of a pain because it's not as instant as the .NET Core method. So if we're comparing the two methods, they're pretty similar in many ways. I think the .NET New, so the .NET Core 2.0, is quick to create. It does have that lovely feature of the auto namespace substitution with that tag in the template.json. So it will go through and change your namespacing. It also allows for further parameters. You would set that up in that template.json. That publishes to NuGet. It's easy to update as well. It's only available for .NET Core. It doesn't show in Visual Studio's new project prompt initially. Okay, you have to do some magic, wrap it in a V6 project to get it into there. But out of the box, it won't just appear there. And that brings me on to Visual Studio for Mac. If you're using that and you want your .NET Core templates to show in there, you would need to wrap this NuGet package in a V6 template to enable you to publish onto .NET Visual Studio for Mac. So the V6 templates obviously are available in Visual Studio. They will support Framework and Core. And they allow for parameters. They publish to the MS Marketplace as an extension. Framework projects are easier to update just because you have that template already there, and they don't tend to not build in the same way as core projects. You still need an instance of it, but it's slightly easier to work with. I find that going through your project and replacing all of your namespaces with the $namespace variable is really tedious. Because when you've got your project, you have to go rifling through it, make sure you've got all the instances. Or when you build your template, there may be some obscure place where you're not going to get that name replacement. There's no template in the new project pop-up for .NET Core projects. It's only Framework. And and then it's a private listing unless your criteria is met. Okay. There are alternatives to the methods I've just told you. When .NET Core first came out, they didn't have this whole concept of the CLI. It wasn't like it is now. So what the big buzz around .NET Core projects was Yeoman. Who's used Yeoman? Yeah. Do you like it? Yeah, on the fence. Yeah. That's kind of how I feel about it. When I first started using .NET Core, I used Yeoman. It's a NuGet package. You just install it, npm install -g for global yo, if you want to install it globally. And then it has this idea of generators. I actually stole this GIF on doing a generator. So it's quite nice. When you go through it, you can choose templates. You can see this was all Bower, so it was earlier. So let's have a look at what they're going to do. So we're going to do .NET Restore. They've got the template in. And it's pretty much the same thing. So you can still use their generators. I've got a link for that. But I found when I wanted to create custom generators, it wasn't easy. I found it really clunky and counterintuitive. So if you can, I would use one of the previous methods that I have mentioned. Okay, so going on to helpful links here. There is a plethora of documentation on the Microsoft site. So for the .NET New, we've got that. My friend Jim Bennett, he's doing a talk this afternoon. He has written some really good blogs on all of this, particularly on the the Visual Studio for Mac extensions. Okay, I've not tried that because my Visual Studio on my Mac, it didn't want to install. It was all a bit of a pain. But apparently, it's there, and you can use it if you are on Mac. So if you want to try Yeoman, you can go through all of that. But I suggest you have a look at the Yeoman ASP.NET generator and go through that. I will be doing a series of blogs on the Twilio blog as well. So you can have a look out for that. And I'll go through the different methods in more detail there. So if I finished a little bit early, I've been rushing, and I had that thing with the .NET New earlier. I am completely open to questions, or if you'd like to have a look in some of the code a little bit closer, we can do that. Would you like to go through and have a look at any questions? Yeah?
How do you deal with when you introduce breaking changes in your templates?
So the question...
Because do you usually ask them to create a blank new template, or do you try to make a Gaussian analyzer to post patches for you to upgrade your code?
So let's, because I need to repeat it for the video. So the question was, how do I deal with breaking changes in the template? When you give a new template, when someone uses your template and you've given them breaking changes, the thing about the template is that you don't update a template instance. So when you have a new template, that is a whole new project. You can update the NuGet packages in there, but your template, every time you publish it, is a new template, effectively. So when someone uses your template, they're using that instance, and you won't publish a broken template. So it will work. And your other question was?
Starting from scratch, it works, but if he seems to find that the new version really is a better one, so if I understand correctly, you have to start a new project in order to get a new template.
Yes. So there are ways that you can engineer it if you're using more of the individual templates, so for files, rather than a whole solution, that you can update your sort of boilerplate code as a NuGet package. So when you update a NuGet package, it goes through and redoes some of your code, the code that you've got in your project. It would be the same. So, but with the solution, it's a whole ecosystem. You've got everything you need, the file structure, the projects you want, and it's not something that you can really go through and update because it's the basis of the solution. If you can, I wouldn't, because your whole code could be built on top of that, and it's like swiping the foundations out. So if you want to, it's more of an iterative improvement. So if you're using a template, you want it at that instance where you've got it. If you're going to update the template, and then you want to update the project that uses it, you really need to go through and update your project at the same time. So it's more for new solutions to keep going. So it's not ideal in that respect. But this is more for each iteration of your solution to improve on it. Do we have more questions? Yes?
Can I create a template that has more than one?
Sorry, I'm not the best at hearing, so.
Can I create a template that has more than one project?
So you should be able to. It's not the easiest thing because it's the solution that you then are publishing. But ideally, yes, you can bring in different projects. It's a little bit more in depth than what I've done. But yes, you could bring in a whole sort of solution. So if you've got your data access layer, so that's your actual database access, you've got your repositories, you've got your service layer, you've got your web layer. You can bring all of those in as a whole template. So that, as I say, is a little bit more in depth on your setup of your schema, but totally doable. So that makes it really nice for the agency work. If you are building, say, a new website for clients, you just do a new instance of your template. And if you wanted to add in, hey, I've got this really new feature that I want to start charging for on my new clients, you can bring that in. I guess then you can also componentize things a little bit more and bring in a new feature to an older client and start updating things. So there's a lot of scope for different method. I'm being told to go back this way. I'm out of shot. I'm back over here. So there's a lot of different methodologies for how you want to do your templates that can suit your business model as well. So does that answer your question? Good. Any other questions? No? We're all good? Okay. So thank you very much. I will just do a quick plug. If you want to come to the Twilio booth, you could win a Oculus Go, so a VR headset, completely self-contained with a hard disk on it, if you come and play Twilio Quest. You're probably wondering what Twilio Quest is. It's an 8-bit adventure game to help you learn Twilio APIs. I am always open to questions, emails. All of these projects that I've shown you today are on my GitHub. So you can go and have a look at how I've implemented the templating in those. They're just there, including the Visual Studio one, the V6, the .NET one. They're on there. You can go and have a look at not the V6, I haven't got that on a public listing, but if you go into NuGet, you can have a look at my templates there and bring them down and adapt them and play with them if you like and see how they compare to the actual templates that are on GitHub. And yeah, you can always email me. Now, if I can ask you when you go, I know it's lunchtime, so you all want to dash out. But on your way out, if you don't mind just doing the feedback forms, I'd appreciate it, and I know the organisers would. So yeah, thank you. I've been Layla Porter, and I really appreciate you coming. So thank you.